In the mist-laden hills of early England, a child was born who would shape the destiny of a kingdom and spark a legacy that would endure for over 1,000 years. From humble beginnings to the grandiose halls of kings and queens, the British monarchy has survived wars, betrayals, revolutions, and the relentless march of time. This is not just a tale of crowns and scepters. It is a story of human ambition, resilience, and power woven into the fabric of a nation. From Alfred the Great to the House of Windsor, the bloodline has persisted, influencing the world in ways unimaginable. Join us as we unravel the triumphs, struggles, and secrets behind the British crown, a dynasty unbroken through centuries of change. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and watch this documentary till the very end to witness the full journey of 1,000 years of power. 1. Hook and Origins of the English Monarchy. The story begins the English monarchy's roots stretch back over a millennium, beginning in a land fractured by warring kingdoms, Viking invasions, and shifting loyalties. The earliest kings were not mere figures. They were warriors, lawmakers, and unifiers of a people scattered across forests, rivers, and towns. Among them, Alfred the Great, born in 849 AD, would become the emblem of endurance and vision. Alfred, heir to the Kingdom of Wessex, inherited a land under siege, where Viking raids were relentless, and the idea of a unified England seemed impossible. Yet Alfred's reign was marked by extraordinary foresight. He fortified towns, reorganized the military, and championed education and law. His translation of Latin texts into Old English reflected a monarch who believed in not just defending his people, but in cultivating their minds. Alfred's vision planted the first seeds of a monarchy that could outlast turmoil, a system not merely reliant on the sword, but on legitimacy, culture, and loyalty. By the time of his death in 899, Alfred had established a blueprint for what would become a line of rulers that navigated alliances, invasions, and political upheavals. His children and grandchildren inherited not just a kingdom, but a reputation, a mandate to preserve stability amid chaos. This early period of the monarchy was as much about survival as about power. Legitimacy was earned in battlefields and in the hearts of the people. The centuries that followed were turbulent. Kingdoms merged, dynasties rose and fell, and Europe's shifting alliances continually threatened the sovereignty of the English throne. Kings like Athelstan, Alfred's grandson, consolidated territories into what could truly be called England for the first time. He established the precedent that kingship required both martial prowess and the ability to inspire allegiance, a balance that would define the monarchy for generations. Yet the crown was never secure. Viking invasions, internal rebellions, and the complex web of noble loyalties meant that each monarch faced constant challenges. It was a world where betrayal could come from within the family and victory could vanish overnight. The monarchy's endurance relied on adaptability, on forging strategic marriages, alliances, and treaties, and on cultivating a symbolic power that transcended the battlefield. The story of the English crown, however, is not just a succession of rulers. It is a narrative of culture, faith, and identity, where each monarch inherited not only power but a story to uphold. Royal traditions, the coronation ceremony, the concept of divine right, and the preservation of royal records became tools to solidify authority across generations. These customs, some of which survive today, ensured that even when kingdoms were fractured, the idea of monarchy remained unbroken. Political struggles and major transitions through the Norman conquest of 1066, the Plantagenets' rise in the 12th century, and the bloody conflicts of the Wars of the Roses. The monarchy survived not because it was invincible, but because it adapted. Each crisis tested the institution. William the Conqueror imposed new governance structures while respecting local traditions. And later, kings like Henry II expanded administrative control, creating a monarchy that could balance local power with centralized authority. The monarchy's survival depended as much on diplomacy as on warfare. Strategic marriages, united kingdoms, reduced hostilities, and strengthened claims to the throne. The royal family understood that power was as much about perception as possession. Maintaining loyalty from nobles and commoners alike was essential, and ceremonies, public appearances, and religious endorsements reinforced the monarch's divine authority. From Alfred to the Tudors, these kings and queens shaped not only England's borders, but also its identity as a nation. They navigated foreign invasions, internal revolts, and religious reforms with an eye on longevity. Each transition of power was fraught with danger, yet the monarchy endured, evolving into a symbol of continuity that the people could rally behind. 2. Plantagenets. Magna Carta and medieval monarchy. The Plantagenet dynasty emerged in the 12th century as one of the most influential royal houses in English history. Founded by Henry II, whose marriage to Eleanor of Aquitaine brought vast territories in France under English control. The monarchy was no longer confined to the British Isles. Henry's reign marked a turning point. Kingship had evolved from merely defending lands to exercising judicial, administrative, and international authority. He established courts, codified laws, and created a bureaucratic system that strengthened the crown's reach. Yet, with this power came intense personal and political conflicts. Henry's struggle with his sons, particularly Richard the Lionheart and John, would shape England's political landscape for decades. It was during King John's reign that the monarchy faced its first major constitutional challenge. Noble dissatisfaction over a heavy taxation and arbitrary justice culminated in the Magna Carta of 1215, a document that limited the king's powers and laid the foundation for parliamentary governance. Although King John's personal reputation suffered, the monarchy as an institution survived because it adapted. The ability to weather rebellions, honor treaties, and eventually reinterpret limits of power became a hallmark of enduring monarchy. The crown's survival depended not just on might, but on perception. The king had to embody authority while maintaining legitimacy in the eyes of nobles and the church. The Plantagenets presided over an era of warfare, alliances, and courtly intrigue. From the 100 Years' War with France to domestic civil strife, monarchs like Edward III and Richard II navigated complex political landscapes where loyalty was fluid and betrayal could strike at any moment. Royal courts became the epicenters of power, a place of grandeur, ceremony, and secret negotiations. The crown relied on strategic marriages to secure alliances, a practice that intertwined England's fate with that of Europe. Every marriage, every treaty, every coronation was carefully orchestrated to reinforce the monarchy's position as a stabilizing force, even amid chaos. Religion was another pillar that reinforced the crown's authority. Kings and queens derived legitimacy from divine sanction, supported by the church, which served both spiritual and political functions. Monarchs, like Henry II, despite conflicts with church leaders such as Thomas Becket, understood that spiritual endorsement was essential. By presenting themselves as God's chosen rulers, they not only commanded obedience but also positioned the monarchy as an unbroken link between heaven and earth. This intertwining of faith and power became a consistent theme, ensuring that even in times of civil war or rebellion, the monarchy remained sacrosanct in public perception. The Wars of the Roses 1455 to 1487 exemplified the fragility and resilience of the monarchy. The conflict between the houses of Lancaster and York was brutal, marked by betrayal, assassinations, and shifting elite. Yet, through strategic marriages and the eventual rise of Henry Tudor and Henry VII, the monarchy survived. Henry VII's reign marked the beginning of the Tudor dynasty, which would redefine royal authority and set the stage for the modern British monarchy. The Tudors understood that survival meant consolidating power, fostering loyalty, and projecting strength. Every coronation, courtly ceremony, and public proclamation reinforced the image of a monarchy both powerful and enduring. During this period, the crown's influence extended beyond politics. Monarchs patronized the arts, supported exploration, and became cultural icons. Courtly life flourished with poetry, music, and pageantry, reinforcing the monarchy as the center of national identity. Royal image and perception mattered as much as law and military might. By intertwining culture, religion, and politics, medieval monarchs built a legacy that went beyond mere governance. They created a monarchy that was symbolic, unifying, and resilient. The monarchy's endurance relied on adaptability. Kings and queens had to evolve with societal changes, wars, and shifting loyalties. The Tudor era exemplified this, with monarchs like Elizabeth I navigating religious turmoil, foreign threats, and domestic intrigue to maintain stability. The ability to adapt, project power, and cultivate legitimacy became a defining characteristic of the English crown, setting a precedent that would carry through centuries of rule. By the end of the medieval period, the monarchy had survived invasions, internal strife, and political upheaval. Its survival was not accidental. It was the result of calculated strategy, careful diplomacy, and an understanding of the symbolic power that kingship carried. The crown had become more than a title. It was a unifying force, a repository of cultural identity, and a beacon of continuity. The lessons learned during these centuries, strategic alliances, ceremonial grandeur, and the delicate balance between power and perception, would underpin the monarchy's endurance for centuries to come. 3. Stuarts, Civil War, and the birth of constitutional monarchy. The 17th century ushered in one of the most turbulent and transformative eras in English history. The crown, which had endured 1,000 years of power, faced unprecedented challenges from within. The Stuart dynasty, beginning with James I in 1603, inherited a kingdom still shaped by Tudor stability, yet teetering under the pressures of religious conflict, political factionalism, and growing demands for parliamentary power. James I, already King of Scotland, believed fervently in the divine right of kings, the notion that monarchs were appointed by God and answerable to no earthly authority. This belief, however, put him at odds with Parliament and set the stage for decades of conflict. James's successor, Charles I, inherited these tensions and magnified them. His insistence on absolute power, imposition of unpopular taxes, and attempts to control religion inflamed resentment across the country. England was a land divided between loyalty to the crown and emerging notions of parliamentary governance. The result was the English Civil War, 1642-1651, brutal conflict that pitted royalists, supporters of the king, against parliamentarians, whose leader, Oliver Cromwell, would come to dominate the political stage. The war tested the very survival of the monarchy. Battles raged across the countryside. Cities were besieged, and families were torn apart. Yet the conflict was not only physical, it was ideological. For the first time in centuries, the concept of kingship was questioned at the national level. The monarchy's power was no longer absolute. It had to contend with the will of the people, the authority of Parliament, and the growing influence of Protestantism and civic ideology. Charles I's eventual defeat led to a shocking outcome: the execution of a king in 1649. The monarchy, seemingly eternal, had been brought to its knees. For 11 years, England existed as a republic under Cromwell's rule, known as the Commonwealth of England. Yet even in the absence of the crown, the idea of monarchy endured. Royalists, loyal nobles, and the populace remained attached to the symbolism, ceremony, and stability it represented. In 1660, the monarchy was restored with Charles II, demonstrating the resilience and adaptability of the institution. Restoration was not merely a political act. It was a cultural reaffirmation. The crown survived by evolving, by balancing absolute power with negotiated authority, by cultivating public support, and by reasserting itself as a unifying force in a fractured nation. Charles II understood that the monarchy's survival depended on compromise and ceremony as much as power. The Restoration also revived the arts, theatre, and royal pageantry, re-establishing the cultural centrality of the crown in national life. The later Stuart monarchs faced further challenges. James II's overt Catholicism and attempts to impose religious uniformity created widespread unrest. By 1688, Parliament and the political elite orchestrated the Glorious Revolution, inviting William of Orange and Mary II to assume the throne. This peaceful transfer of power was monumental. It established constitutional monarchy, limiting the powers of kings and queens while empowering Parliament. The monarchy adapted once more, surviving by accepting its role within a system of laws and shared governance rather than absolute rule. This era revealed a profound truth about the monarchy. Its endurance depended on flexibility, symbolism, and public perception. By embracing constitutional limits, monarchs preserved their position at the center of national identity, ensuring that the crown remained relevant even as political power shifted. Royal ceremonies, oaths, and traditions reinforced legitimacy, while the monarchy became a stabilizing figure amid ideological and political upheaval. During the Stuart era, personal and political conflicts intertwined with broader societal transformations. Monarchs were constantly negotiating alliances, managing public opinion, and navigating religious divisions. From the execution of Charles I to the constitutional settlement of William and Mary, the monarchy demonstrated that survival was as much about adaptability and perception as it was about force. These lessons would carry forward, informing the ways in which subsequent dynasties, including the House of Hanover and eventually the Windsors, maintained continuity, authority, and influence. By the end of the 17th century, the monarchy had emerged from civil war, revolution, and constitutional transformation with renewed purpose. It was no longer an absolute power imposed by divine right alone. It had become an enduring institution, carefully balancing authority, tradition, and legitimacy. Its survival for over 1,000 years was no accident. It was a product of calculated adaptation, resilience, and the cultivation of symbolic power that transcended politics, appealing to both nobility and commoners alike. For Hanoverians, and the expansion of the British Empire, the 18th century brought profound change for the British monarchy. With the death of Queen Anne in 1714, the House of Hanover ascended the throne, beginning with George I, a German-speaking king whose reign marked a shift in both domestic politics and international influence. George I's reign underscored the monarchy's evolving role. No longer the sole architect of policy, the king increasingly relied on ministers and parliament to govern. This adaptation ensured survival, as the monarchy's symbolic power remained intact while practical governance was shared. George I's successor, George II, continued this balancing act, navigating court intrigues, parliamentary power struggles, and a Europe embroiled in wars for dominance. The Hanoverians recognized that the monarchy's survival depended on adaptability and perception. Though monarchs might not control every decision, they embodied the stability of the state, ceremonial grandeur, and continuity that anchored British identity. The reign of George III, one of the most famous kings in British history, highlighted the monarchy's connection to both domestic and global events. His rule encompassed the American Revolution, conflicts with France, and the early stages of industrialization. George III was deeply involved in governance, passionate about his nation, and determined to maintain royal authority. Yet the loss of the American colonies revealed the limits of monarchical power, particularly when public sentiment and colonial resistance outweighed royal edicts. Despite these challenges, the monarchy adapted, consolidating influence at home while projecting power abroad. The British crown became synonymous with empire building, guiding Britain through the expansion of territories in India, Africa, and the Caribbean. Monarchs supported exploration, trade, and the military, ensuring that the monarchy remained central to national identity, even as global ambitions grew. The crown's influence extended beyond borders, its symbolism uniting a vast empire of diverse peoples under the banner of Britain. The Hanoverians also cultivated the cultural authority of the monarchy, promoting arts, science, and public institutions. Royal patronage of literature, music, and architecture reinforced the monarchy's prestige and solidified public perception of kings and queens as the embodiment of national identity. Ceremonial events, from coronations to public appearances, became tools to unify the nation and maintain loyalty. Even as the monarchy's direct political power shifted toward parliament, its ability to inspire awe, loyalty, and cultural cohesion grew stronger. Personal struggles of the monarchs also shaped history. George III faced mental health challenges later in life, yet his devotion to duty and the crown reinforced public admiration. Royals navigated private crises, marriages, and scandals with an acute awareness that their personal image was inseparable from the monarchy's survival. The crown's endurance relied not only on strategy but on the cultivation of mystique, dignity, and moral authority, qualities that modern monarchs continue to uphold. The 18th century also saw the monarchy adapting to political modernization. Ministers and advisors managed day-to-day governance, while kings focused on ceremonial, diplomatic, and symbolic roles. This careful delegation preserved the crown's relevance, ensuring that monarchy remained central to British identity even as Parliament assumed legislative authority. By balancing power, influence, and public perception. The monarchy demonstrated an extraordinary capacity for resilience and reinvention. The legacy of the Hanoverians was profound. The monarchy survived wars, revolutions, and the challenges of governing an expanding empire. By adapting to constitutional limits, navigating colonial conflicts, and cultivating cultural authority, the crown remained a unifying institution. It became a symbol of continuity, embodying the nation's history, aspirations, and identity while ensuring that royal authority persisted in a rapidly changing world. The British monarch's ability to endure, adapt, and inspire loyalty was now firmly established. Lessons learned during this period, balancing symbolic and practical power, cultivating public legitimacy, and projecting stability during crises, became central to the crown's enduring success. Monarchs were no longer rulers of mere territory. They were the living embodiment of Britain's global influence, cultural identity, and historical continuity. 5. Queen Victoria and the height of the British Empire. The 19th century marked a defining moment in the history of the British monarchy. Her reign would last over 6 decades, the longest of any British monarch, until Elizabeth II, and it became synonymous with moral authority, national pride, and the expansion of the British Empire. Victoria's era saw the monarchy evolve from a symbol of inherited power into an institution capable of shaping public life, culture, and international influence. Victoria's personal life intertwined deeply with her public role. Her marriage to Prince Albert of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha brought both companionship and political partnership. Albert became a trusted advisor, influencing domestic reforms, scientific advancement, and cultural patronage. Together, they embodied the ideal of moral, dutiful, and devoted monarchy. Yet personal tragedy, particularly Albert's death in 80, plunged Victoria into prolonged mourning, dramatically altering her public appearances and court life. Despite this, her influence endured, demonstrating that the monarchy's power could persist even amidst profound personal grief. Victoria's reign coincided with the expansion of the British Empire, reaching its zenith as the empire on which the sun never sets. Colonies spanned every continent, and Britain's economic, political, and military influence reshaped the world. The monarchy served as the symbol of imperial authority, a unifying presence for subjects thousands of miles away. Royal visits, portraits, and correspondence reinforced the crown's connection to distant lands, cultivating loyalty and a sense of shared identity across diverse cultures. Domestic governance evolved during Victoria's reign, reflecting the growing importance of constitutional monarchy. Prime ministers like Lord Melbourne, Benjamin Disraeli, and William Gladstone managed political affairs, while Victoria maintained influence through council and ceremony. Her reign demonstrated the delicate balance of monarchy in a parliamentary system, public influence and political guidance, without direct legislative power, preserved the crown's authority and legitimacy. Victoria became a living emblem of national continuity, embodying the unity of crown, government, and people. Royal traditions flourished under Victoria. The monarch's ceremonial role became central to national identity. From coronations to jubilees, the pomp and grandeur of monarchy reinforced the crown's cultural power. Victoria established the modern image of the royal family as both symbolic leaders and moral exemplars, blending personal dignity with public engagement. Public perception became as vital as policy. The monarchy's survival now relied on cultivating respect, affection, and symbolic authority. Victoria's personal relationships also shaped Europe's political landscape. Her children married into royal families across the continent, earning her the nickname Grandmother of Europe. These alliances created a web of influence that extended Britain's diplomatic reach and reinforced monarchy as a stabilizing institution. Strategic marriages, combined with cultural symbolism and imperial authority, exemplified the multifaceted strategies that allowed the monarchy to maintain power for centuries. Despite industrialization, social upheaval, and political reform, the monarchy remained relevant because it adapted. Victoria's reign demonstrated the importance of public perception, symbolic authority, and strategic diplomacy. The crown was no longer solely a political engine. It became a cultural, moral, and unifying institution. The monarchy had evolved into a modern entity, capable of enduring social change while remaining central to national identity. By the end of Victoria's reign in 1901, the British monarchy had secured its place as both a domestic and global institution. Its legacy was profound, a symbol of continuity across centuries, a stabilizing force amid political and social change, and a beacon of imperial and cultural influence. The strategies, traditions, and adaptability that emerged during the Victorian era would inform the monarchy's role well into the 20th and 21st centuries. Part 6. War, Scandal, and the Modern Monarchy. The 20th century tested the British monarchy like never before. Global conflict, social transformation, and unprecedented media scrutiny challenged the institution, forcing it to adapt while maintaining the dignity and continuity that had defined it for centuries. King George, ascending the throne in 1910, faced a world in upheaval. The First World War loomed. Political movements threatened the old order, and the monarchy's German roots sparked public distrust. In response, George V made a crucial decision to rebrand the royal family as the House of Windsor, anglicizing their identity to reinforce national loyalty. This move demonstrated the monarchy's ability to adapt its image for survival, balancing tradition with public sentiment. During the First World War, the monarchy became a symbol of national resilience. George V and Queen Mary visited troops, hospitals, and bombed cities, projecting solidarity with the suffering populace. The crown, once distant and ceremonial, now became a living emblem of endurance, reinforcing loyalty during the darkest hours. Public affection was nurtured through visible acts of service, showing that monarchy could embody both authority and empathy. The interwar period introduced unprecedented personal and constitutional challenges. Edward VIII, George V's eldest son, ascended in 1936 but faced a scandal that shook the monarchy. His determination to marry Vela Simpson, an American divorcee, led to his abdication, a crisis that could have undermined the monarchy's stability. Yet the institution endured, thanks to the careful management of succession and public messaging. Edward's abdication illustrated a crucial principle. The monarchy's survival depended on the delicate balance between personal desires and institutional responsibility. Edward's younger brother, George VI, assumed the throne under extraordinary pressure. Inheriting a nation on the brink of the Second World War, George VI displayed courage and resilience. He navigated the monarchy through global conflict, personally visiting bombed cities during the Blitz and delivering radio addresses that unified a terrified nation. Alongside Queen Elizabeth, his steadfast presence reinforced the monarchy as a symbol of continuity and national identity. The royal family's visible sacrifices and empathy strengthened public trust and proved that symbolic authority could be as powerful as legislative or military power. The Second World War also highlighted the monarchy's role in adapting to media and public engagement. Radio broadcasts, public appearances, and wartime communications brought the crown closer to the people, forging a bond that transcended centuries-old traditions. The monarchy's survival relied not only on ceremonial grandeur but on emotional connection, demonstrating adaptability to changing cultural expectations. Post-war Britain confronted new challenges: decolonization, political reform, and the rise of modern media. George VI and his successors maintained relevance by balancing symbolic power, public service, and adaptability. The monarchy embraced modernity without relinquishing centuries of tradition, ensuring that it remained central to British identity even as the empire transformed into a commonwealth. By the mid-20th century, the monarchy had solidified its position as a constitutional institution. Political authority had shifted decisively to Parliament, but the crown's symbolic, cultural, and emotional influence had never been stronger. Royal engagements, ceremonies, and public duties reinforced national unity, while personal integrity and visible empathy cemented public trust. The monarchy had survived revolutions, wars, abdications, and social transformation, proving the enduring power of continuity, perception, and adaptability. The experiences of the 20th century shaped the modern monarchy. It was now an institution defined by service, symbolism, and public connection rather than absolute political authority. From George V to George VI, The crown navigated crises with foresight, balancing tradition with the needs of a changing nation. These lessons would guide the House of Windsor into the 21st century, ensuring that the monarchy remained an unbroken line of influence, history, and identity. 7. En Elizabeth. Segundo, modern monarchy, and a legacy of 1,000 years. The late 20th and early 21st centuries presented a monarchy navigating unprecedented social, political, and technological change. Queen Elizabeth II, ascending the throne in 1952, inherited a world where the British Empire was transforming into the Commonwealth. Societies were rapidly modernizing, and media scrutiny intensified. Her reign would become a testament to the monarchy's enduring resilience, symbolic power, and ability to adapt without compromising centuries-old traditions. Elizabeth II understood that survival required a delicate balance of visibility, discretion, and service. She embodied continuity, appearing at state occasions, commemorating national milestones, and maintaining the symbolic authority of the crown while leaving political governance firmly in the hands of elected officials. Her consistency and personal dedication created a sense of stability in times of social upheaval, from post-war reconstruction to political crises and global transformations. The Queen's reign also reflected the monarchy's evolving relationship with the public. Television, radio, and the internet brought the crown closer to millions, transforming royal ceremonies into shared cultural experiences. From coronations to jubilees, the monarchy projected both tradition and relevance, connecting with citizens across generations. By modernizing the methods of engagement while preserving ceremonial gravitas, Elizabeth II ensured that the monarchy remained central to national identity and global perception. Her personal life, while intensely scrutinized, highlighted the challenges of humanizing an institution historically defined by mystique. Marriages, divorces, and royal scandals tested the monarchy's image, yet Elizabeth II's steady presence reinforced legitimacy and stability. She demonstrated that the monarchy's power was not derived solely from governance or wealth, but from continuity, integrity, and the emotional bond with the people. Following her passing, Charles III assumed the throne, inheriting not only the crown, but the responsibility of guiding the monarchy in an era of heightened public awareness, global crises, and evolving social expectations. The modern monarchy now operates as both a cultural institution and a symbol of national unity, balancing centuries of tradition with contemporary relevance. Royal families continue to uphold centuries-old ceremonies, patronage of charities, and diplomatic engagement, reinforcing the crown's authority without direct political interference. The British monarchy's longevity surviving invasions, civil wars, abdications, empire collapses, world wars, and societal transformations can be attributed to its adaptability, symbolic authority, and ability to evolve while preserving tradition. Every monarch, from Alfred the Great to Elizabeth II, contributed to a lineage that blends personal leadership, ceremonial grandeur, and national identity. The crown's survival for over 1,000 years is a testament not only to power, but to wisdom, perception, and resilience. The legacy of the monarchy is multifaceted. It represents the unbroken line of authority, the endurance of cultural and political symbolism, and the ability to adapt to global change without losing its historical core. Royal traditions, public ceremonies, and the monarchy's role as a unifying force have cemented its relevance in the modern world. Today, the crown embodies continuity, historical memory, and national identity, an institution that connects the past with the present while guiding the country's symbolic future. As we reflect on 1,000 years of power, the story of the British monarchy is not merely a history of kings and queens. It is the narrative of human ambition, resilience, and adaptability. It is the tale of an institution that survived revolutions, wars, scandals, and societal transformation because it learned to evolve, inspire loyalty, and remain relevant. From Alfred the Great to the House of Windsor, the monarchy demonstrates that true power is not always wielded by force alone, but by vision, perception, and the ability to endure. The British monarchy, unbroken for over a millennium, remains a living testament to the intersection of tradition, culture, and authority. Its influence is felt not only in the halls of Westminster but across the globe, shaping diplomacy, culture, and national identity. Through triumphs and trials, the crown has persisted, proving that adaptability, continuity, and symbolic power are the cornerstones of enduring rule. 1,000 years of history, struggle, and governance converge to remind us that the monarchy's legacy is eternal, a bridge between the past and the present, a symbol of unity and a living story of human resilience.